Okay, a couple things before I start this. One, I know the lighting kind of sucks because usually when I do videos like these, there's a light that turn on like right above me, and the light bulb kind of frizzled out. So yeah, oh well, it's not going to be as bright as usual. Two, I know I'm pretty late to the party on this. Because WrestleMania 31 ended on Sunday, and I really should have done a video about it that night, right after, to get immediate reactions, but I couldn't because, school stuff and I had homework and whatever, so that couldn't happen. Sorry. I was just adjusting there. My bad. But I'm doing it now. And I really wanted to dislike WrestleMania 31. It's one of those things where, like, you want to dislike it because the build-up is bad, the matches are kind of blah, in comparison to last year's WrestleMania 30, which was really good. Um, Amongst other things, the fact that it's Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar for the title, yet they had interacted a total of, what, 4 or 5 times between when Reigns won the Rumble and WrestleMania 31. So, how can you get involved, emotionally invested in that? You can't. Um, Also, the fact that Roman Reigns hasn't captured a singles title. He's won the tag team title once, and he was just. Everyone can agree now. He was pushed way too quickly, way too fast, and way too hard for the wrong title. Uh, in retrospect, I would have swapped him out for I would have swapped him out for Daniel Bryan when it comes to Royal Rumble winning and being in the IC title, the Intercontinental clusterfuck at the beginning of the show. Because Daniel Bryan has proved on more than one occasion since 2012 that he is capable of holding a title because he's won singles titles before then, and he knows how to be a champion. He can represent the company well and stuff like that. I'm not one of these Daniel Bryan like nut huggers though who thinks that it's a travesty that he wasn't in the main event. No, because he was still competing for a singles title. And what people don't understand, and I'm going to get to this, is that after WrestleMania 31, Daniel Bryan became a Triple Crown winner, which to me is still relevant. And I've been a wrestling fan for nearly 20 years. 25 years, probably. Somewhere around there. On and off for 25 years. So to me, that's still relevant. I wanted to dislike this show because of the fact that it didn't have a number. It was WrestleMania that had a little play sign. I'm like, what is that supposed to mean? Like, what? I don't get it. You know what I mean? And it looks like, because they were promoting WrestleMania 32 during WrestleMania 31, which will be in what was it, Houston, Texas? It's somewhere in Texas. I don't remember. It'll be in Texas next year, which is cool. I guess where the Undertaker's from. Yeah. Uh, so yeah, and they didn't have a number with that either. I'm like, what, are they doing away with the numbers now? But they're still gonna call it like WrestleMania 31. You know what I mean? It reminds me of WrestleMania 16, where it wasn't really WrestleMania 16. They called it WrestleMania 2000, and they quickly did away with that by calling the years after it X7, 17, whatever. Anyways, yeah. So I don't think this is gonna last. I think in 2 years, in 2017, like you're gonna see WrestleMania 33 in some shape or form. But WWE likes to experiment with WrestleMania in the presentation of it and how to promote it, because it's always been a pay-per-view of theirs that even people who don't like wrestling tune into. So, and I think WWE is beginning to realize that more and more and more with every passing WrestleMania, because there was very little build-up to this. The build-up to this sucked. For lack of a better term, it was horrible. And there's two reasons for that. One, the reason that I was talking about earlier, and the fact that the general public who don't really give a flying shit about wrestling, they don't, excuse me, they don't care how built up a WrestleMania event is. They're just going to go to it just for the performances, of which there were plenty in this show, more than usual, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. And the fact that it's that WWE Network is has made it possible to watch live pay-per-views, and you only pay $10 for it. This is the second WrestleMania that was on WWE Network. The first pay-per-view on it was WrestleMania 30 last year, and it went off without a hitch. And it's funny that WWE wanted to experiment that way, but by some miracle they succeeded, which to me is a good thing. I don't mind. I don't mind paying $10 for pay-per-views, but that lowers the quality of it by default. Compare the pay-per-views you're watching now to the ones maybe like 15, 10, or even 5 years ago. Okay? WrestleMania stuff 5 years ago didn't have didn't have a whole bunch of commercials. Didn't have it didn't have a whole bunch of performances. It didn't like pressure you to buy WWE Network or anything like that. No, it just had matches. Just had matches, a couple of live performances, and that's about it. There were a fuck ton of performances on this show. Way too many, in my opinion. It was extremely try-hard. Nearly, or possibly more, than half of the entrances of the wrestlers in this show were had some kind of performance attached to them. Triple H decided it was cool that he came out as the Terminator, and it did a big vignette where they were promoting the new Terminator movie, which I really don't give a flying shit about, because I don't know, the Rise of the Machines was awful compared to Judgment Day, so I'm like, I'm done with it. But they're making a new one. I forget what it's called, because I don't care. But they were promoting the shit out of that thing all night at WrestleMania. It was horrible. They had Triple H come out as the Terminator. They had this thing where it was like, target acquired, Sting, and whatever, and it was like, because Arnold Schwarzenegger was in the Hall of Fame this year, so they had to, of course, promote his new movie, because he's in the Hall of Fame. Yeah, all the other good shit. It was terrible. And Sting comes out to this like Japanese drum, this Japanese steel drum performance thing, which I guess was cool, but whatever. I want to see who else. The Undertaker, of course, had a big performance before his entrance. Bray Wyatt had a performance before his entrance. Rusev came out in a fucking tank. John Cena had a giant, Americana type performance before his music hit. That's 6 people had performances attached to their entrances. I've never seen that many in a WrestleMania. Maybe the first like 5, because WWE wanted to go from being the Connecticut territory to something on a national and international level. And you had to do that in the 80s because territories were still relevant back then. But territories, there are no territories now. So why even do that? Why is that necessary? I'd love for someone to explain to me in the comments why it's necessary to have these drawn out, boring performances before these entrances. I don't fucking get it. Just play the damn music, come out with the entrance, and have a damn match. Only problem is there weren't enough matches on this WrestleMania because they decided to have a 2 fucking hour pre-show, which to me was very unnecessary. Why they need to have these pre-shows and shit, I have no fucking idea. Because it's stupid as shit. It essentially made WrestleMania 6 hours long. Why? It doesn't need to be 6 hours long. 4, maybe 5 hours. Maybe 5 hours. Matches in the pre-show were the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal thing, which I believe they really should have renamed it to the Ultimate Warrior Battle Royal, but that's just my opinion. Because, rest in peace Andre the Giant, but the Ultimate Warrior dying last year, to me, is more relevant, and to me, kind of illustrates the fact that WWE can let bygones be bygones with certain people. Or maybe they could have called it the Randy Savage Memorial Battle Royal, and that would have been cool. But it's the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, which is fine. And the Big Show wins. Something else which I think is fine too, because the Big Show, I understand that Paul Wyatt, that's the Big Show's real name, I understand that he knew in 1999 that WCW wasn't going to last, so he said, let me sign a 10-year contract with WWE because there may not be an ECW after WCW either. He must have been like clairvoyant or something like that. Because how the hell does that happen? But WWE, I want to say after like 2005, has treated him like fucking shit. He really is. And when I first saw him as the Giant in WCW in 1995, 1996, I'm like, this is the new Andre the Giant. They shouldn't be calling him the Giant. They should be calling him like his real name, like Paul. They should call him like Paul the Giant or something like that. I don't know. But he could have been a big fucking deal. Pun intended. Because he's just as big as Andre the Giant. But no, they have him lose battle royals. They have him win championships transitionally, which they just flat out stopped doing from 2005 all the way until like what, 2013 or 2012. When did he have the heavyweight championship last? I think it was like 2011, like really late 2011, and 2012, maybe early 13, something like that. Whatever that match he had with Mark Henry for the world title, where they broke the ring again, they decided to repeat the spot where him and Lesnar break the ring, and they repeated it with him and Mark Henry. It was during that time period. So to me, WWE hasn't really been using Big Show that well at all for the last decade. And he's like 43 years old. He's a decade older than me, right? Something like that, yeah. So for him to win this Battle Royal, to me, that's a long time coming. He should have won the last one. But WWE decided to push Cesaro and then de-push him a month after. Whatever. I feel like they maybe should have had Cesaro win it because it would have been like a gimmick. This is the guy who wins Battle Royals. But I don't know. I'm glad that the Big Show won it. I'm very glad that he's won it. And he's in the twilight of his career. As a Big Show fan, and I do enjoy his work, he has decent mic skills, he knows how to act. You can tell he's genuinely having fun when he goes to when he goes out to have matches. When he's a good guy, and I don't know why they flipped him from good guy to bad guy. That's probably his idea, just because he's just has that fun-loving aura about him, and he doesn't want things to be boring. But when he's a good guy, and when he comes out and smiles and you know, and interacts with the fans, you can tell he's legitimately having a good time. And I really do believe, if this is really the twilight of his career, I expect him to retire maybe by like 2020 or something like that, maybe. Depends on how far he can go, I don't know. Maybe he'll pull Terry Funk and like not retire until he's like 65 or 60 like Ric Flair, who knows. But whatever the twilight of the Big Show's career is, he deserves a lengthy title run, like we'll say like maybe 4 or 5 months or longer, and a good guy run as well. I don't think he's ever held the title as a good guy. Maybe once, maybe in like 2001 or something like that. I don't remember. Or 2002 or 2003 or something. I don't remember. But I really do think that fans legitimately respect him, and since you can look up any wrestler today, like even the most casual fan can just look up a wrestler, one wrestler who they're interested in on IMDb or Wikipedia or something, and they can be like, oh, this guy's actually pretty cool, he's been in the business for 20 years. Maybe I should support him. You know what I mean? Anyways. After the Battle Royal, or I think it was, I don't know what came first. I think the tag team titles came first in the Battle Royal. But they had the tag team clusterfuck. It was the Usos, Los Matadores, Kid and Cesaro, the current champions, and some other team that I don't remember. I think it was Miz and Mizdow. I don't remember. Oh yeah, during the Battle Royal, Mizdow decided to fight the Miz, which was pretty cool. But yet on the Raw after, we didn't see any interaction between them, or at least I didn't see it. Then again, I tuned into Raw pretty late after WrestleMania. Whew, excuse me. Some air coming up. There we go. But the tag team titles, Kid and Cesaro win and retain. Cool, I guess. I don't care. WWE needs to retire their tag team division. I honestly think that the Usos should win the titles, hold them for like a year and some change, or 2 years, or some crazy number like that, and then retire them after their like second year in a row of retaining them, and be like, we're the ultimate tag team, and we want to retire these titles because there is no more tag team division in wrestling. You can have tag team matches, but tag team titles don't mean anything anymore. They really don't. They haven't meant anything in almost 10 years. And to prove my point, I want anyone in the comments section, in their memory, to name the last time there was a relevant tag team, pair of tag team champions. A relevant one, meaning that either one or both of them would go on to win world titles and have it be a meaningful reign. not a transitional one. Or in Daniel Bryan's case last year, an accidentally transitional one. I challenge anyone to name one, and the last will say, in the last decade, from 2005 until now. That's like an assignment for you guys. I can't name one. Maybe if I think about it, I can name a couple. Okay? And I mean, won the tag team titles in 2005, and between 2005 and 2015, went on to win a world title and have it be a meaningful reign. I'd love for someone to come up with something like that. You won't find it. From 1995 to 2005? Absolutely. Edge, Christian, both Hardys, who else? Foley and Rock and Sock Connection. I don't know if they won the tag team titles, but, you know, whatever. Let's see. See, and that's from 95 to 15. Oh, let's see. Shawn Michaels, Kevin Nash. I think they won the titles in 95 or 96. The tag team ones, I don't remember really off the top of my head. But anyways, you get the point. So Tyson Kidd and Antonio Cesaro win the tag team titles. Woohoo. Don't know about Tyson Kidd, but Antonio Cesaro should have been in that Intercontinental Clusterfuck. And he should have been elevated 2 years ago. Because that man can fucking perform. And that's what you need in today's wrestling. Because the storylines have all been done. Everything's been fucking done. Everything. Everything's been fucking done. And like, the only way you can make a storyline fresh now is by like making like a small change to a previous storyline that you've done. This is not easy to do, especially in something like wrestling, where it's completely pre-planned. So WrestleMania begins. First match, Intercontinental Clusterfuck. Pretty much a title match with, I think, like 7 guys, and they all beat the shit out of each other and climb a bunch of ladders to get the IC title. Simple enough. And I like what the announcers said, but it was kind of bittersweet. They said, well, WrestleMania 31 begins where WrestleMania 30 ended. That's with Daniel Bryan coming out, and he came out to Yes chants and stuff like that. No performance necessary. No live performance necessary. The fans are doing the performance for themselves by doing Yes chants. And yeah. So, you know, a whole bunch of spots, whatever. Dean Ambrose gets power bombed through a ladder, which is pretty awesome. Good spot for him, but to me that doesn't mean much. I was I wanted either Dolph Ziggler, Dean Ambrose, or Wade Barrett to capture the IC title. Or Daniel Bryan, obviously. I'm very glad that Daniel Bryan won this, because it made him a Triple Crown winner. Now he's held the WWE title, he's held the US title, he's held the IC title. Good. And he's had the tag team belts. Yeah. What's next for Daniel Bryan? They're gonna do this. They're gonna do this because of the end of the title match, which I'll also get to in like maybe a half hour. Because Daniel Bryan is like, he's a guy who you read his history and you realize that this is a guy who anyone can relate to. Anybody. Parents can like tell their kids, hey man, you know, if you get good grades and stay in school and work hard and bust your ass, well then you'll be like Daniel Bryan someday. And the kids goes, yeah, he's exciting, yes, that kind of stuff. You know, the guys our age are big fans of him because we are aware of his work in Ring of Honor and where else did he do the American Dragon thing? And other independent circuits as Bryan Danielson. So we understand that, you know what I mean? I don't know what chicks think about him, but whatever. He's married, so they're probably onto him by default because of that. Who knows? But yeah, and he can still he isn't over the hill yet. He's what, 34? You're older than me, so he's like 34, which is perfect. Perfect time for him to capture a few titles and be like maybe a five or six time WWE champion, and for him to have a good 3-4 month reign as a champion. That's all you really need to be relevant nowadays. You don't need these year-long title reigns and stuff like that. There will be one because WWE wants to bury CM Punk and pretend that he doesn't exist, so that they're gonna have someone beat the 434-day reign that CM Punk had. But that who does that remains to be seen. It may not be Roman Reigns. It may not be Roman Reigns. But speaking of titles, the guy who had the Money in the Bank, Seth Rollins, had his match with Randy Orton. That came up after the Intercontinental match. And this match was like anything you'd see on Raw, save for the ending. The only really cool thing about the match was the ending. So Orton's like down, and Seth Rollins is getting ready to hit his finisher, the curb stomp. Rollins goes for the curb stomp. Orton kind of pushes Rollins up, and while Rollins is in midair, Randy Orton RKOs him. RKOs Rollins. And Rollins swallows an RKO. And Orton beats Rollins. And the fact that this was the second match of the night, to me, was kind of a tip-off. I'm like, well, after the match, I'm like, well, the possibility of Seth Rollins cashing in his Money in the Bank just increased dramatically. Because now he has pretty much 3 hours to recuperate and consider cashing in his Money in the Bank. And it was one of my predictions. One of my predictions was after the title match, Seth Rollins was going to just pin the winner, and there you go, just classic Money in the Bank cash-in. That kind of happened, but it kind of didn't. I'll elaborate on that later. And then Triple H versus Sting. I didn't want to see this match. I didn't want Sting to be in a WWE match. Because it's fucking Sting. People have been arguing about WCW and stuff like that. And the discussion of it, while necessary, in my opinion, lost its relevance a long fucking time ago. Why? Look what happened after the invasion. Look what happened by 2002. By 2002, by March 26, 2001, that's when WCW was bought out by Time Warner. Right? March 26th, 2001 until, I believe, very early 2002 was a thing called the Summer of No Worries. Um, there's a TNA documentary called "The Year of TNA," the history of TNA Year One, which I'm probably going to review it because it's a very rare DVD, and I think my copy still works. And it's a great DVD. It's a great documentary, shot by the same guy who did Forever Hardcore, Jeremy Borash. And in it, he says that, look, the reason why people didn't go, people like Sting and Nash and Hall and Hogan and Goldberg and anyone else who was more relevant in WCW than Booker T and all the other cruiserweights and other mid-carders, Booker T being the least mid-card of them all, was because they had this whole summer where Time Warner was just paying them to sit on their ass. Now, if I'm getting paid to sit on my ass, why would I ever perform in WWE unless they were paying me more? Maybe that's what happened to Booker T. I don't know. I'd love to hear his input about it. And hopefully we will someday, because that would be a very good, that would provide a very good insight. Get towards my back here. There we go. As to what happened, as to why Booker T decided to go to WWE instead of all the other guys. And then Sting goes to TNA in 2003. Does a couple shows there, decides it's not for him, decides he wants to get back to the ring full time, so he trains and shit. And in 2006, he goes to TNA full time. Do you see what I mean here? By 2002, WWE was already looking to the future. They were already developing John Cena. Sheamus did a jobber dark match, I believe, in 2002. And this is when he was still living in Ireland. I think he was living in Ireland in 2002. I don't remember for a fact. WWE was looking at CM Punk, not taking him seriously, but just being like, well, here's this guy in ROH, in Ring of Honor, and in New Japan Pro, who is kind of cool, and he kind of reminds us of Edge a little bit. WWE was looking towards Edge, Kurt Angle, the Hardys, all these guys who either migrated from other companies like WCW or ECW, or, in the case of Angle and the Hardys, were complete WWE. The reason the invasion sucked was because the wrong people were in it. The match qualities in that were amazing. And after the Sting versus Triple H match, a part of me was marking out, and a part of me, the same part of me that was marking out, was the same part of me that was kind of bittersweet and not heartbroken, but I was just face palming on the inside. So let me summarize the match. And why I think that because of this match, I had an epiphany that WWE are trying to use nostalgia to sell shit, which to me completely ignores new talent, which I fucking hate. So H and Sting, they have kind of a standard match, and Sting looked really good actually for his age, 55, right? Yeah. It means a decade ago he was 45 and he was wrestling like harder matches in TNA wrestling. How crazy is that? Fans are chanting, "You still got it" at Sting, because why not? They're seeing a 50-year-old man fucking in a match. I'd be doing the same. Even though it was probably not genuine at all, who cares? Then, like, about halfway through the match, you hear Degeneration X's music, and I'm like, don't tell me. Please don't tell me. And everyone from Degeneration X comes out. Billy Gunn, X-Pac, Road, Billy Gunn, Billy Gunn, Road Dogg Jesse James, X-Pac. Those three guys come out, and I'm like, where's Shawn Michaels? Oh, he's probably just gonna come in afterwards and super kick somebody. And so all them beat up on Sting for a few minutes. And then you hear NWO's music. And I go, and my Attitude Era mark, in my Monday Night War mark, instincts are now kicking in. I go, wait a minute, when the fuck did NWO ever help Sting? Until Sting joined it in like 1999. And by then it was two different like groups. Hogan, Nash, and Hall come out. And they actually have Hogan hit somebody. They have Hulk Hogan hit like X-Pac. And all of a sudden, I think I posted it on Facebook right after. I said the average age of the people in that match was like 45. Like, we're witnessing a retirement home like food fight. Why is this necessary? And I was like I was kind of marking up just because it was like, oh cool, you know, awesome, shit from 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. That's kind of cool, I guess. Would have been nice if they did that in 2001, but they couldn't because the summer of no worries. But it's cool now, I suppose. But then you get, and it's just like eating junk food. Because it feels good going in. But then afterwards, when you get a headache, or when your sugar rush ends, or if you eat way too much of it and you start like throwing it up, or it just starts like, or you get like the taco shits, that's when you go, maybe I shouldn't have seen that. Maybe this wasn't so necessary. It wasn't. Would have been better off. By the way, Shawn Michaels did come in right after, during that fiasco and super kicked what's his name, Sting, which is fine. And Triple H goes over, which honestly, what would you expect? I was not expecting Sting to win this. But I want just a match. Just a match. I didn't care for the entire clique coming out. The entire clique. That's who made up Generation X and NWO. Look at this in retrospect. They were buddies 20 years ago. They're buddies now. So a whole bunch of people who've been buddies for roughly half a fucking century are beating up on each other, and I'm supposed to believe it? I would have rather seen a whole bunch of people from NXT come out after all that, beat the shit out of all the old guys, and redo the Nexus. That would have been cool. But instead we get people who are my mom's age. In their fucking 50s. Some of them in their 60s. Hogan's as old as my dad. He's a few months younger than him. Kevin Nash was born in 1959. Scott Hall, I think, born in like 62. These are people almost twice my age. I'm glad this came on third match. I'm glad it was still bright out when this happened at WrestleMania. This was not necessary. This was like the nice fudge, cream pie, ice cream, whatever new creation from Ben and Jerry's that they have. That's like eating that versus like, you know, the vegetable stew that, you know, might suck, but you know it's going to be better for you in the long run. This wasn't necessary. I would have rather just seen Triple H versus Sting in just some 20-minute match. Or even better, a 20-minute, like, or even better, Sting winning in like 5 minutes with like some kind of roll-up finish, and then Triple H beating the shit out of Sting for 15. And then have all the other guys come out. But during the match? Oh, by the way, they made the stipulation before the match. And this is how you know that they were trying to this is how you know that they were micromanaging Sting's age. During the match, like as they were announcing it, Lillian Garcia's like, by the way, this match is no countouts, which means that like if Sting needs to, you know, get outside and say they didn't know that Sting was okay for his age, like they were like, okay, well, you know, Sting's like really like blowed up and gassed in like 2 minutes. He can just like chill outside for like 3 minutes and you'll be all right. The match was, it was fun to watch on the surface, but it wasn't in the long run. It didn't elevate new talent. All it did was just show me that WWE has a fucking boner for the Monday Night War. And that they're going to use the Monday Night War to sell the network because they have nothing else to sell it on. So they're like, yeah, here's what you'll see in the network. You can watch it on our on-demand Raws, Nitros, and pay-per-views, all from the Monday Night War, as well as ECW. And I am grateful for that. I'm not trying to diss WWE when they do that, when they make that available, because it's amazing. Granted, half the entrance musics are just like produced sound bites from WWE. Like they have Raven's debut, and Raven's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. They have his ECW debut, but his music, it's like some like poppy version of Come Out and Play. But I came to expect that though, so I can't even fault them for that. But still, I've always been a fan of younger talent. Never liked it 15 years ago when they had guys who I watched in the 90s be on WWE programming and WCW programming. I hated when the Four Horsemen reunited in 98. I despised it. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? These guys are as old as my dad. Why do I need to watch this shit? I didn't like it then, and I don't like it now. Wrestling should only contain people my age, possibly older. Like 45 is like the cap of age. And that's if you're like really, really good. Or if you're going to be like Terry Funk and put everyone over. Which is what Ric Flair does too. And who did Sting put over? A 45-year-old Triple H? Was that necessary, really? If it was a 35-year-old Daniel Bryan, that would make some sort of sense. If it was Dolph Ziggler, that would have made sense too. But it's like I said, WWE is a hard-on for what happened 15 years ago. And they're going to milk that cow until it can't be milked anymore, and it can be milked a lot. Anyways, after the one thing I did like about the end of that match, was that Triple H. Everyone lines up afterwards, and we all know they're all buddies. Triple H like kind of stares at Sting and shakes his hand, and I'm like, they could have done that with just two of them in the ring, and that would have meant a lot more. One thing I didn't like was how that completely got fucked to shit about a half hour after. So they do I think the Divas match is up next, and let me tell you about the Divas, man. I know exactly when the Divas division started to crumble, and when it became very, very irrelevant. When Lita and Trish Stratus announced their retirements in 2006, I remember just being very heartbroken about that. Because I knew that women's wrestling wasn't going to be the same ever. And it's one of those instances where I say I hate being right. Because women's wrestling, not only is it, hot chicks beating the shit out of each other, which to me is, I'm gonna sound like a perverted asshole like King here, but it's awesome to see. But when you instill emotional investment in it, to the fact that you're caring about it more than the men's matches, that's when it becomes legitimately fucking awesome. And that's what the Trish versus Lita program was. It was far more compelling than any other mid-card program in WWE in 2004 and 2005. And nothing was better. I can't remember who the Intercontinental Champions were and who was involved in the Intercontinental involved in the Intercontinental title picture. But the women's title, I can name everyone involved. Not just because they're chicks and, I'm a heterosexual male. No, it was because I'm a guy who likes storylines in fighting. Between Lita, Trish Stratus, Victoria, who else? Even the people that they brought up, like Ashley Massaro, even Candice Michelle, who was like, that was like her first year, was like '06 or something like that. I don't know. Let's see, Tori Wilson, Stacy Keibler, all these women, Nydia, with Molly Holly, all these women, and I can't remember all these women, and they were just amazing performers, amazing talkers, and they were able to put on an amazing program, amazing matches. And then they all just retire one after the other. And by 2008, what do you have? You don't have shit. You have Natalya, who's very talented but can't talk. Beth Phoenix would have fit right in with all the other women from 2004 to 2006, but she has no one to really be in a good feud with. Maurice Ouellette, let's just face it, she's just fucking eye candy. Can't put on a good match. Whatever. The Bella Twins, and God bless the Bella Twins because they've been busting their ass since 2009, but they hit a ceiling. And now I don't care about them anymore. They tried to do Brie versus Nikki. Remember that program from the summer of 14? Within a fucking week, they completely squashed the goddamn angle. Because no one gives a fuck. I didn't care. AJ Lee versus, what's her name? Caitlyn. That was the last time I really cared about a Divas program. And then Caitlyn quit. Or didn't re-sign her contract or whatever. AJ Lee versus Paige was great for like a month. Then then they decided to write Paige out off as being some like bipolar weird girl who like makes friends with the people, her opponents, so that she can beat them, and it wasn't organic. So it's AJ Lee and Paige versus the Bella Twins. I forget who wins. I think AJ Lee. I think she does. I think she gets like the the what is it, the Widow's Peak or something. Hits the Widow's Peak or whatever. Or gets one of the bells in a tarantula. I don't remember. I don't care. And these women are just as talented or can develop just as much talent as their counterparts from a decade ago. But it's one of two things. Either the incentive isn't there or their heart isn't in it. Or they're using it as a springboard for something else. Like the Bellas with reality TV. The fucking Total Divas thing. And I'm surprised that they're making AJ Lee look decent because she's CM Punk's wife. I don't know. I couldn't get into this match. It sucked. I did not like it. After that we have Bray Wyatt, and while this is all going on, we're getting commercials for the new Terminator movie non-fucking stop. It's like, I get it. I'll see the movie, possibly, maybe, who the fuck knows. And then John Cena versus Rusev. Once again, two performed entrances, because you have to have performed entrances now. It's a thing, I guess. They put on the same match they put on in Fastlane, pretty much. Like, John Cena did this real weird thing where he bounces off the second rope and does like a stunner. And I'm like, in all of like the nearly 15 years I've watched John Cena, I don't think I've ever seen him go to anywhere above the second rope. Cena wins. We all knew he was going to win. Rusev is still my favorite wrestler because he's exactly what WWE needs. Just some big guy who can perform full time and who can beat the shit out of everyone in front of him. Like a dark Goldberg kind of deal. Did Rusev need to lose? Yes. Did he look strong while doing it? Yes. WWE is booking Rusev the right way. They're making him look good. And I can't wait to have him go for the world title. It's funny, they conveniently removed in their promo for the match, in their intro, there's this one segment on Raw where Rusev gets this lawyer because Lana's not around. Like took time off to do a movie or something like that. And so they get this oh my god, they get this they get this guy they get this guy who's like this Russian lawyer, and he has the worst Russian accent ever. They conveniently removed that from the program in introducing the match, which I felt was really funny. And then I think it's either after this match or after Undertaker versus Bray Wyatt. Triple H and Stephanie McMahon come out again. And at this point, I'm like, alright, cool. You know, maybe he's going to congratulate Sting, and maybe he's going to be like, hey, thanks for a great match. You know, I'm so glad you're here. Because we just saw him shake Sting's hand. But instead, no. Instead, Stephanie was like, yeah, you know, you guys got a attendance record. Awesome. And it's thanks to me. And they go on and on about saying that they know what's best for business and stuff like that, whatever. The Rock comes out. And Honestly, The Rock. I want to talk about The Rock for a little bit. The Rock's a guy I like but don't respect. When it comes to wrestling, not when it comes to other stuff. He's a decent in-ring. He was a decent in-ring worker. He was an excellent mic worker. He knew how to sell a match. He knew how to cut a promo. He knew how to make something more important than it actually was, which is a staple in wrestling. Third generation superstar. Third generation performer. I have a question. And this isn't any other family. This is Maevia's. This is from... This is a dynasty of Samoan warriors who pretty much were one of the founding fathers of wrestling. He has a Samoan tattoo on one of his arms. If you're going to follow family tradition that much, why are you doing acting? To me, that's a slap in the face to family tradition. If I were Peter Maivia, if I don't know if he's still alive, or Rocky Johnson, I would have been like, you're not part of our family anymore. You decided to do movies instead of wrestling. Peter Maivia and Rocky Johnson, they did wrestling their whole lives. Rikishi, since 1995 in WWE, probably for years before then. Roman Reigns is in there, and he started in 2011, I believe, but he's going to be in for a while. The Usos, all these Samoan guys, all the men from the islands. Wrestling is in their blood. It's what they do. It's what they naturally do. So when someone like The Rock decides, oh, I'm going to make more money doing movies, and completely turn down a family who has supported me. For me, and I'm thinking probably in absolute terms, which I get accused of doing, to me that doesn't show much respect for a family. I understand why he did it, but that doesn't mean I agree with it. So The Rock comes out, and all of a sudden, my first reaction is, alright, well, this show just got try hard as fuck. I'm sorry. To me, The Rock equals, nowadays, ever since he returned in 2011, especially when he returned in 2011, because WrestleMania 27, people want to say that WrestleMania 31 was the worst. Watch WrestleMania 27 if you can. As a joke, I watched it before watching WrestleMania 31 and I fell asleep. So he comes out and he's like, hey, you guys suck, whatever. He does his old Rock thing, which, it's fun, it's cool, but it is what it is. When he came out, I was like, wow, awesome. And I kind of predicted what would happen, because in the middle of his promo, Stephanie McMahon slaps him. And then she goes, what are you going to do about it? Because you can't hit him, you're not going to hit me. And Rock goes, yeah, you're right, I can't. And he just kind of walks out to the ring, and just kind of, and Stephanie McMahon's like, that's right, you leave my ring. So you're not here anymore, you're a part-time person, you're not relevant, and you need to go away. And before WrestleMania begins, they show that Ronda Rousey from the fighter, who had just become pretty popular. Sorry. Was shown in the first row. And The Rock, and I was watching this with a buddy of mine, and he's like, and my buddy's like, how much do you bet he's gonna go back to the ring and just like give both of them a rock bottom? I'm like, well, he can't do that, but he can't do that to Stephanie, but he's gonna probably find someone who can. He walks up to Ronda Rousey, and they like kind of stare at each other or whatever. And this segment lasts a long time. And he brings her out to the ring, and Stephanie McMahon goes, I invited Ronda Rousey here. And she's not going to do anything to me because she knows that I own all these fans, her included. And Rousey goes something along the lines of like, well, you just lost one of your friends, and then like beats the shit out of both of them. It was pretty funny. It was kind of cool. She wore like an over 9,000 t-shirt, which is pretty hilarious. So now over 9,000 is going to be like a thing in wrestling probably because of that. I mean, it's kind of cool that WWE is now like addressing the fact that Ultimate Fighting exists. Because I think WWE has done that in the past. They did that. That's what happened in the Attitude Era. That's one of the big things that a lot of people don't understand about the Attitude Era was the fact that they were trying to also introduce big fights because they stole that from ECW. That's one of the many things they stole. And so when you see guys like Brock Lesnar, who are former Ultimate Fighters, the first thing I thought of that of Brock Lesnar coming back in 2012 was like, all right, well, we're seeing the second coming of Ken Shamrock. And Ken Shamrock was a former Ultimate Fighter who was in WWE, and he had a really good career in WWE. So the segment was kind of cool, but it was there just to fill time. That could have been done on any Raw. That could have been done on the Raw after WrestleMania. But there was a reason why they did that, because Bray Wyatt versus The Undertaker was after that. And apparently, while rehearsing, or while getting ready, Bray Wyatt hurt his ankle. And you could see that because he wears his trademark corduroy pants. And the ankle that was hurt had like a flame design. Like it looked like it clearly painted flame design on his on the leg where he hurt his ankle. So I imagine that match was going to go on a lot longer, but it didn't. I have no idea why WWE thought it was cool to have The Undertaker in a match after he lost the streak last year. I have no idea why. I would have booked that to be his final match. And I would have booked this segment to have him come out and announce his retirement. Be like, look, The Undertaker is finished. I've done everything there is to do. Brock Lesnar broke the streak, whatever. And then you have Bray Wyatt come out and be like, well, I wanted a match with you, but looks I'm going to win by default. And then you could have, like, The Undertaker, like, say to Bray Wyatt that, you're never going to be the new Undertaker no matter how much cryptic nonsense you do. So, good luck with your career, but I'm out of here. And then you could have this segment end with, like, The Undertaker, like, stiffing Bray Wyatt and beating him up or something like that. I don't know. The match was okay. It's kind of good that Bray Wyatt was hurt because he's half Undertaker's age and, it wasn't accidentally stiff. It could have been. It was just a blah match. It really was. It was a blah match, and like I said, here's another guy over 50 in a match. So I'd like to say, I mean, yeah, WWE just likes their nostalgia, and they're just like clinging. Whoa, sorry, my mic fell. They're just clinging and clinging, clutching to the fact that these older performers can still kind of go. But it doesn't work that way. Especially now when you have virtually nothing to lose. I would have booked that. I would have booked an impromptu match of the after the segment. I'm going into fantasy booking mode, I know, but I don't care. I would have had an impromptu match between all three members of the Wyatt family. Bray Wyatt versus, I'm calling him the I Guy now, Luke Harper, the I Guy, and Eric Rowan. Neither of those two looking anywhere near as powerful as they looked when they were in the Wyatt family. I don't know, that's what I would have done. Alright. And then Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. Neither of which have a performed entrance. No live performance for both of those guys' entrances. I have no idea why. I feel like they may as well have kept the thing going, kept the trend going with performances as entrances, but who knows? Okay. I like Roman Reigns. He's a good performer. They haven't given him any mic abilities yet. They haven't given him the free range that they give a lot of people to talk on the mic, probably because they don't know what he can do. But nonetheless, he's a decent performer in the ring. I feel like if you gave him free range to get on the mic, he could be a decent promo, but who knows? He's got a great family history, being part of the Samoan dynasty. So his roots are in the right place. He has a good work ethic. He was at the house show I went to in the summer, and he put on a decent match, and he didn't fuck anything up. He goes to every Raw. He goes to every SmackDown. He probably does matches on Superstars and Main Event as well. He busts his ass. A lot. Brock Lesnar. Big fan of Brock Lesnar because his work is just so intense. And they're booking him that way, obviously. Because in 2002 to 2004, he was not like this. It was a lot more. You saw a lot more of the NCAA background in Brock Lesnar in 2002 to 2004 than you did the mixed martial arts, kill or be killed type that we're seeing from 2012 on. Which is funny because you'd think it'd be the other way around because now Lesnar is pushing 40. He'll be 40, I think, in 3 years. But nonetheless, I expected the match to be physical, and it was. I expected Roman Reigns to swallow everything that Lesnar gave to him, which he did. Within 10 minutes, Reigns already ate like 2 F5s and like several German suplexes. Like Roman Reigns got beaten, like destroyed in this match. They were stiffing each other left and right, and the story, it told a decent story, in my opinion. And the story is the fact that Brock Lesnar gets full of himself when he's beating the crap out of these opponents and doesn't know that these opponents, are mocking him. Because that's exactly what Roman Reigns is doing. He was mocking Lesnar. He was like laughing, like after every spot. and like it was just pissing off Lesnar to the point where Lesnar made a mistake, and that one mistake, like, it costed Lesnar dearly. They go outside the ring. Lesnar F5s Roman Reigns onto the mat, drags him back in, pins him, gets a 2 count only. Reigns goes back outside, I think, something like that. Sorry, I'm losing my voice because I haven't had water. I've been talking for an hour. And Reigns is just like taunting the shit out of Lesnar. Lesnar goes to F5 Reigns onto the steel post. You know, he'll do that. He'll do the spin thing with the F5. And he did that to John Cena way back in the day. And broke, I think, both of John Cena's legs or something like that. Kayfabe injury, obviously. And Reigns counters it and throws Lesnar into the post, into the turnbuckle, into the post. And Lesnar's already kind of juiced, like right here a little bit. Got a little bit of color, but not really. But it busted up Brock Lesnar the hard way. Like, you could see the cut physically, like right there. And me and my buddy were like, oh, it's ironic that Lesnar is bleeding, yet he's the one beating the fucking holy hell out of Roman Reigns. And so now it's a Roman Reigns. Now Roman Reigns is making a comeback. Now he's hitting Superman punches. Lesnar ate like 5 spears and like 4 Superman punches before Seth Rollins comes out and cashes in the Money in the Bank during the match, making it triple threat. And it results in Roman Reigns getting pinned by Seth Rollins. And now all of a sudden Seth Rollins is the new WWE champion. Holy shit, the show ends. Now Brock Lesnar signed, I believe, another 2-year contract with WWE. So he's on until 2017. WWE should not give the title back to Brock. It's not necessary. He's an attraction. He's a once-a-year guy, or a few times a year guy, who can just can be in a match with somebody and just either put them over, or not put them over, but put himself over, beat the crap out of them. And that'll be that. You know what I mean? I think it was good that Brock Lesnar had the title. It was fine. It's okay. But I really do believe that title needs to belong to somebody who is down for the company. But on the other hand, on the flip side, think of wrestling how it was back when all these Hall of Famers were in their prime. Talk about Zbyszko and all these other guys. It was a pretty decent Hall of Fame class, by the way. Zbyszko in particular. I'm a big Zbyszko fan, so yeah. Also the fact that and Kevin Nash too. That was cool. Kevin Nash's speech was really good. Kevin Nash's speech, Alundra Blaze's Medusa's speech was really good too. It's a very long show. It's as long as WrestleMania. It's really crazy. Yeah. Wrestling like 30 or so years ago, the champions didn't defend titles every month or every year. They defended it like 4 times a year at major pay-per-view events, because that's what got asses in seats. I do believe that maybe wrestling is kind of, or WWE is kind of going back to that, and for good reason. For good reason. They know that they don't need to be as intense anymore. They don't need to show the big names all the time anymore like they had to in the Attitude Era and the Monday Night Wars. Even like the Twilight years of it, or the Ruthless Aggression era from 02 to 09. You know, they didn't even need to do that. That was like that was just to re-win over, or to win over WCW and ECW fans who had been lost because of the buyouts in 2001. You know what I mean? But now I think wrestling's gone back to what it used to be. But maybe it hasn't. So we don't know. We don't know. I don't think, and I'm very glad that they didn't put the belt on Reigns. That would have been disaster. Fans would have been trashing the ring. It would have been just like when Hulk Hogan joined NWO. And you can believe that. I'm glad that Lesnar didn't retain, because then he wouldn't have defended the title in months. I've been a big Seth Rollins fan for about a year now. He knows how to cut a promo. He's filling the void that Edge left behind in 2011, which CM Punk filled for a while, and now Rollins is filling in the void that CM Punk left. I do think that CM Punk was one of the better champions of this era because he was very convincing. You either loved him for performing a lot and for going in night out and putting on good shows, good matches, and cutting good promos, or you hated him for the same reason. But he wants nothing more to do with wrestling. And if he retired, then oh well, he retired. That's fine. But Seth Rollins, I really do believe that. Actually, I don't believe. I believe that Seth Rollins is going to be a transitional champion. He's going to hold the title until Extreme Rules, where Roman Reigns just ripped that thing right off of him. And then Roman Reigns is going to hold it until SummerSlam, where Brock Lesnar will probably win it back. Who knows? On Raw, Brock Lesnar, I guess in the opening segment, from what I heard, Brock Lesnar like beat up a whole bunch of people, and so we got suspended, which anyone knows. I think this is even like common knowledge now in wrestling. I mean, this isn't even kayfabe at this point. Or if someone gets suspended and it's on TV, that means they're taking time off. Suspension, firing means you're taking time off. That's all that means. So we're not going to see Lesnar for a while, probably until SummerSlam, which to me, I don't mind. But if they're really going to leave that much of a drought in between appearances from Brock Lesnar, and if he's going to be that much of a part-timer, which, like I said, I got mixed feelings about that. I got mixed feelings about part-timers, because maybe they're necessary, maybe they're not. We don't know. I think that each have their own place. I think that if Lesnar's going to be a part-timer, that he just does matches with somebody who WWE is trying to get over, and so they put him in a big match against him. For example, like NXT, you know what I mean? Like I can see like Kevin Steen versus Brock Lesnar. That'd be pretty cool. You know what I mean? That would be all right. But anyways, that's just my opinion. WrestleMania 31 was, in my opinion, it was a try-hard show. It was. It was a try-hard show that was mediocre for a WrestleMania. Quite decent for a pay-per-view, a general pay-per-view. But for a WrestleMania, this isn't worth $60. It was worth $10. That's all I have to say about that. It didn't need to have all these 50-year-old. They didn't have to have the entire clique during Triple H versus Sting. To me, it wasn't necessary. Yeah. Anyways, I'm done. Hope you enjoyed this / used it as a bedtime story or whatever. And I'll see you for Extreme Rules. Peace.